if you can hear me. All
Yes,
right.
I can hear you.
So thank you for joining us. My name is Josh Ervasti. I'm with R Squared Financial Strategies here in West Des Moines, Iowa. I would like to thank VetBadger for hosting this webinar of navigating the path to solo practice ownership. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn the mic over to Stephen to tell us a little bit more about VetBadger.
Thanks, Josh. I'm Stephen. I'm the CEO of VetBadger. We do practice management software. We do work with a lot of solo practice owners. So if you have any questions about practice management software, please get in touch. I'm also a practice owner, and so I'm definitely interested in hearing what Josh has to say today. Looking forward to some good financial advice.
Thank you, Stephen. I will start sharing my screen again here. There we go. So as I said, today we are going to be talking about navigating the path to solo practice ownership and what are some of the key considerations for veterinarians as you start embarking on that journey, whether you're currently in practice ownership or if it's something that you're considering. This presentation is primarily geared towards the solo and small practice owners. However, if you have a larger or thriving practice or you're looking at getting into a larger practice, there will also be some good, valuable information for you here. Yep, I'm back on. Sorry. So I am a partner with R Squared Financial Strategies. We are a financial planning firm located in West Des Moines, Iowa, serving clients nationwide. Personally, I've been in the financial services industry for about 25 years now. And over about the last 8 years, my primary focus has been working with and planning for veterinarians and veterinary practice owners. Kind of started that journey through a partnership with AVMA Life. I am the AVMA Life representative for Iowa State, University of Minnesota, University of Nebraska Lincoln, and University of Wisconsin Madison. So I have the honor of working with a lot of those students and graduates and kind of coaching them through some of the financial considerations as they're starting their careers and helping them get started off on the right foot. And for those of you that may be a few years out of school, I will tell you that there's some amazing talent coming out of schools these days. And so lots to be looking forward to. So personally, I live in West Des Moines, Iowa with my wife, Chrissy, our two sons, John and James, and then our two dogs, Jack and Java. So for anybody that's counting, that's Josh, John, James, Jack, and Java. It makes it really fun when names get jumbled up a little bit. We do a lot of volunteer work with our church, Lutheran Church of Hope in West Des Moines, our son's Scout Pack and Troop. I'm also a member of F3, which is a men's fitness and leadership organization. And I also like participating in off-road obstacle races and, kind of running over the hills and through the woods and jumping over obstacles in the meantime. So that's a little bit about me. I apologize. I'm not sure why I keep getting muted. I'm sure it is user error, not the program by any means, but appreciate a little bit of grace there. So we're going to be discussing a handful of topics, and as we're going through this, at the bottom here and at the bottom of every slide, you will see if you have questions, we will have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. Please send your questions to vets@r2fin.com. Once again, that's vets@r2fin.com. Due to regulatory purposes, the chat has been disabled on this webinar. So first thing that we want to do when we are considering practice ownership is we want to identify our why. And in my opinion, that is the most important aspect of all of this. And so that's where we will start to From there, we're going to talk about defining your vision or where you want your practice or your vision for the practice to go. Navigating business operations, or as I like to say, the businessy side of business. Incorporating financial planning, because all of this, at the end of the day, it's important to make sure that our financial plan and our business plans are syncing up. And then also the importance of implementing periodic reviews. So today, like I said, we're going to start with defining your why. And as I said, in my opinion, this is crucial. This is the most important thing that you need to tackle first, is why. Why are you considering starting a practice? Why is it that you think that you want to take a leap and become a practice owner? Because we need to figure out what your passion is. We need to figure out what it is that is going to keep you motivated during the tough times of the practice and set that North Star, for lack of a better term. So why are we doing this? And if we don't have a clearly defined why, it can be a little bit daunting when we don't really know where we want to go or why we want to do it. So your why is going to be the foundation for your practice. It's going to guide your decisions, shape your culture, and it's going to help attract like-minded clients, employees, and other professionals that you may be associated with. The other thing that we need to figure out too is, how will your practice serve your financial plan, not the other way around? Unfortunately, I know a lot of people that have gone into practice and they serve their practice. Your practice should serve you and your goals, because if you enter into a situation and really all that you're doing is grinding it out for your practice, all you did is bought yourself a job. And I don't know a whole lot of people that go into practice ownership to buy themselves a job. Frankly, if that is what you're doing, you may be better served leaving your practice and going and working for somebody else. So, how is your practice going to serve your overall plan, your goals and objectives? Your why is also going to guide you through challenges, because things get difficult. As a business owner, like I said, I've been in this industry for 25 years, and I've been a business owner for a vast majority of that. And business ownership has its ups and downs, and you need that motivation. You need that passion to be able to help get you through those difficult times. And your why is going to provide that motivation for you. And frankly, a why, as far as I've heard a lot of whys in my time, and a lot of different motivations for starting a practice, dissatisfaction with your current job is not a good why. A lot of businesses in general, I'm not going to pick on just veterinarians, but a lot of businesses have been started out of a resentment. I think I can do this better, and I've got a chip on my shoulder, so I'm going to go show you. And frankly, when life gets difficult, when business gets difficult, it's a horrible motivation. The other, my opinion, is just my opinion, another horrible motivation is power, prestige, or things. Money is a horrible god. And if your entire motivation is just to make a bunch of money, you're going to find that to be empty. So some examples of really good whys. I've got a couple of clinic owners that they felt that their community deserved better care than was currently being offered. And so they set out to launch a practice because they weren't able to increase the standard of care through the clinic that they were working with. So they set out to do their own thing so that they would be able to bring that better standard of care, to bring that care and concern and the community involvement to what they believed their area deserved. Another really good one that I heard is, I've got a doctor that is considering going into practice ownership. She's thinking about doing her own solo thing. And one of her biggest motivations is to be able to encourage and mentor that next generation. She likes the thought of being able to call her own shots, set her own mentorship programs, and frankly, bring people under her wing, not necessarily for the purpose of them joining her practice and growing a larger practice, but a lot of her motivation is to be able to bring them in, encourage them, teach them so that they can go out and do their own thing eventually. Because you know what? She's not worried about competition. And that's a wonderful attitude to have. So, a strong purpose is going to help you persist through the tough times. And a good why is also going to be vital when we're defining how we want your practice to grow. When we're looking at, okay, so what next? What are we trying to accomplish? Well, your why is going to be the driver of a lot of that. So once we've established our why and we have a very clear purpose for what we're going to do, so now we need to look at what's your vision personally and professionally. Because once again, we don't want to serve our practice. We want our practice to serve us. And so do you envision a smaller one-person shop, maybe some sort of an assistant, maybe a little bit of help, but it's primarily going to be you, yourself, and you, maybe you and your truck. And is that what you envision? Or are you looking to build something bigger? Are you looking to build a larger enterprise? So the way that we kind of define that is it going to be a lifestyle practice or a value practice? What I mean by lifestyle practice is, typically speaking, a lifestyle practice is going to provide you a wonderful income. It's going to provide you the freedom and the flexibility to do what you want to do and to care for your family and serve your community and do all of those things incorporated into your why. But chances are pretty good when we're getting toward the end of our career, we're not necessarily going to be in a position that practice is a sellable asset. So we need to make sure that we're planning along the way to compensate for that. So if I don't have something I can sell at the end of my career, I need to make sure that I'm setting myself up otherwise. Versus a value practice, which would be more of a definition of, I want to build and grow something. I want to build this entity, whether it be one location with several doctors, or even if it is just you, but you're going to build it out to be a larger practice? Or do you want multiple locations? Or heck, I have a gentleman here in Iowa that his vision is he's wanting to keep private practice private. So what he's doing is he is going around and he's buying a lot of these clinics in his immediate area and building something for the purposes of a legacy. He wants to build an enterprise, and he understands as part of that, there will be a time that he will likely end up stepping away from the day-to-day working with the patients and be more in charge of running the practice as a whole or the enterprise as a whole. Now, that's a little bit different. If we're going to build an enterprise, now we've got something down the road that is going to be a sellable asset. And so the way that we're going to plan and structure our growth strategy is going to be very dependent on what is our vision. Now, understand, just because you start with a vision in one way does not mean that you can't change it. I know a lot of people that have started off on one or the other side of that spectrum, and through a number of years, they have decided, you know what, I thought that would be what I want. However, now I've decided I want to take it another way. A lot of solos decide that they do end up wanting to build out something. They see opportunities. They enjoy the thrill of building something. But then I've also seen people that have thought that they want to open that big clinic. And then once they realize all the things and all the little nuances that come along with the HR side of things and compliance side of things and managing the books and driving all of the different metrics, that's just not what they're into. And so they've taken a step back and decided just to focus on something smaller. So your growth strategy, your long-term vision is going to shape all of the different aspects of your business. So it's important to spend a lot of time in these first couple of steps, defining your why and establishing a clear vision, because that is going to be what is going to drive us forward as we are doing more and building this thing that you're wanting to build. Excuse me, I'm going to have to be taking sips of water. I managed to catch something from my kids, so bear with me. So now we've got our why, we've got our vision. Now there is the businessy side of things, the parts of business that frankly most people don't like. But I see a lot of people that spend a lot of time and effort in working in their business and the minutia of their business, and it pulls their focus away from either taking care of their patients or growing this thing that they wanted to grow. So on the businessy side of things, the good news is you don't have to do this alone. There's a lot of professionals that are out there, and frankly, you can outsource most of this. So there's bookkeepers. It's the number one thing that I'm going to suggest to everybody. Unless you really like balancing the checkbook, hire a bookkeeper. There are bookkeepers out there that specialize in veterinary, that understand the nuances of veterinary bookkeeping and accounting, that can coach you on and look at some of the key performance indicators or KPIs and manage things. One of the firms that I often will just talk to people about, they set everything up on the AHA chart of accounts. So it's a standardized way of looking at the numbers behind your business. But frankly, unless you're really into spending nights and weekends balancing your checkbook, that's one of the first things that I'm going to suggest that you offload. Financial analysis, a good CPA that understands veterinary and medical is going to be important in helping you establish pricing, monitoring your profitability, making sure that we are keeping an eye on some of the costs that are vital to keep under control. Your cost of goods sold, your employment cost, all of these different back end sides of the business that can eat into your profitability, and make sure that you are operating within the margins of what a good practice should be. Now, I also caution people, depending on how much you want to put your trust in different benchmarks that are released by some of the organizations out there, they're really good to be able to kind of give us a little bit of a temperature of the way that things should be running. However, your practice is your practice. Your area is your area. And there's going to be different dynamics that are going to inform some of your percentages as far as profitability and exactly what you want to do. The other thing that I'm going to caution everybody on is try not to fall under the trap of, I'm going to put everything through the business because I want to write everything off because I want to lower my profitability, so I have to pay less taxes. Commingling your personal expenses and your business expenses makes it very, very difficult to truly analyze what the profitability of your business is. Not to mention, if we're building something with the intent of eventually selling it and your books are dirty and you're putting that personal vehicle through there, or heck, I've seen people put personal medical expenses and memberships and just all sorts of different things through their practices. And then when we go to peel out some of those numbers and run a valuation on their practice for saleability, then it's really, really difficult to get an accurate number there. So I am going to caution you with your bookkeeping and your CPA, make sure that you are keeping your books clean. Make sure that you are not passing through a bunch of garbage through your books. Third thing, we want to keep an eye on our suppliers and inventory. Make sure that you are keeping an eye on your invoicing and everything like that. Make sure that your pricing is accurate. This is something that your bookkeeper, CPA, or practice manager can help you with. and just making sure that our costs are in control, that pricing is still accurate for the invoices that you're receiving, because it is really, really easy. I kind of equate it to during COVID, a lot of people developed a little bit of an Amazon habit. Some of us, unfortunately, have not lost that Amazon habit, but regardless, it's only $10 here, it's only $10 there, is a really good way to kind of eat into those books a little bit. Make sure that you're setting clear budgets and pricing and sticking with that and analyzing it on a periodic basis. Big thing that can help you with all of this is your practice management software. Invest. I use that word very deliberately. Practice management software and all of your professionals are an investment in your business, not an expense. Invest in good software that's going to help you track inventory and costs and can tie into your QuickBooks, help you with scheduling, all those different kinds of things. And VetBadger has a phenomenal software. They're one of many. But for the small and solo practice owners, VetBadger has got a great platform. Definitely recommend checking that out, but also check out a couple of others. But see what's going to fit in with you, and don't buy some big fancy practice management software that's going to have more features than you're going to maybe use. And just make sure that you're keeping your practice management software in tune and that you're utilizing the full capabilities of what it can do for you. And definitely keep that in mind. So from here, now we need to look at, integrating your business in your financial plan, because as a business owner, your business is you and vice versa. 80% on average, 80% of a business owner's net worth is going to be tied up in their business. That's a pretty big number. However, what will happen is we will have people that get so focused on the business that they neglect their personal and their financial plan. So it's like three legs of a stool. You want your personal plan, your why, your personal vision for the future, your family's vision. Some people will have a family mission statement. When I'm working with some of my clients, when we're establishing their why, we will talk about their statement of purpose from the personal aspect of things. Then we have our financial plan, which is how are we going to build and grow our assets? Once again, if we are in a situation that we are going to have that lifestyle practice and build something up and down the road likely won't be selling it, then we need to make sure that our financial plan is taking that into consideration. And then we also have our business goals. So personal, financial, and business is three legs of the stool, and they all have to be in sync. And the key is to surround yourself with the right people that can help keep those three legs balanced. So with your personal and financial and business goals, what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of run two tracks of planning. One, we're going to be doing your business planning, and then on another track, we're going to be doing your personal and financial planning. That is how we are able to make sure that things are in alignment with your why, that we're keeping an eye on everything, and that we're building and growing our assets and building and growing what we're wanting to accomplish cohesively. From there, we're going to talk about protecting and building. So now that we've got this path that we want to go down, we want to protect and build. Protect is key. There's a lot of things that are out there that can hinder your future. So we want to do some de-risking. Now, we can do that in the form of insurances between disability, life insurance, key person insurance. We don't need to get into details on those today. But another way that we can protect our business is to make sure that some of our standard operating procedures, our client intake process, our billing process, how we handle a new client that might come in, all of these different systems and processes that are part of our business need to be documented. Because here's the thought. If you, as the practice owner, heaven forbid you're sick or injured and unable to work, you need that relief person to be able to come in and step into the practice and not miss a beat. Because especially, heaven forbid, if you're in a situation that you can't answer or you can't coach somebody along, or you are too ill and you don't have the energy to do it, we need to make sure that a lot of those standard operating procedures are documented. And so that is a very vital thing on the protect side of things, and de-risking. We're actually going to start there before we get into the build phase of our business, because de-risking actually is a really good way to add value in your practice, but it is planning for some of those contingencies. Then we're going to build. Now we're going to look at what is our growth strategy? How do we want to build profitability? What is our pricing, our target markets, marketing, all of the different things, and how are we going to build this thing? Because eventually we want to look at what does that exit look like? Our exit strategy, as a matter of fact, isn't something that we're considering at the end of our practice. Exit planning is business planning. 50% of businesses end up transitioning out of the control of the owner due to 5 things, the 5 Ds: death, disability, divorce, distress, and disagreement. 50% of businesses end up transitioning out of the control of the owner. So you want to have your practice structured in a way that if one of those things were to happen and we need to transition the practice, if it is going to be a sellable practice, that you are set to go no matter what the timing happens to be. If you wait until the last couple of years before you want to retire to start exit planning, you're going to be playing a whole lot of catch up. So exit planning is one of those things, and it, like I said, it's a business strategy that we're constantly doing throughout. And the way that we do this, and a really good strategy for all of this tied together. So we're going to set our 10-year goals. We're going to set that vision down the road. And once again, establishing a clear vision. We're going to look 10 years down the road. What does this all look like? Now, we're not going to worry about, what the pricing or specific financials are going to be, but really from a 30,000-foot view, what does this look like? Then we're going to take that and we're going to break it down into 3 or 5 year strategic directives. In order to reach that 10-year goal, what are the things that we need to accomplish in 3 to 5 years in order to be able to achieve that thing? Once again, understanding it could change, but at least if we're running in a direction, we can pivot if we need to, and you will, because things are going to happen. The second that you set your vision, a variable will change. It's inevitable. But the good news is if we're setting in the right direction, we've got the 10-year vision, we're doing 3 to 5 year strategic directives, we can easily pivot. Now we're going to take those 3 to 5 year strategic directives and we're going to do 1-year goals. Goals should be written in pencil, not carved in stone, mind you. They can change, but what do we want to accomplish in the next year to help us achieve that long-term vision? Then what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to break it down into 90-day sprints. So every 90 days, what we're going to be doing is what are the maximum 5 tasks or actions I need to take on the personal and financial side of things and the business side of things in order to achieve my strategic directives. Maximum 5. Frankly, a lot of times 5 is too many. We just want to focus on 1 or 2. But every 90 days, we're going to look at that. And then every 90 days, we're going to be asking ourselves, is the vision the same? Are we needing to make adjustments? If you break things down into that, into that type of a strategy, then that's going to help us make sure that we're staying on track, that we're able to pivot as things come up, and that we're not playing catch up. So some of you may recognize that. A lot of that comes from what's called EOS or traction. That is the 10-year, 3 to 5 year, 90-day, or what's also called the Exit Planning Institute. That's a lot of their strategy as well. So, but it's a really, really good roadmap that we're constantly working within our business. As you're doing all of this, the other thing that we're wanting to make sure that we're doing is leveraging the expertise around you. So once again, this comes down to what is your why, what is your vision for what you're trying to accomplish, and who are the people, who are the professionals that you should have around you to help you build and grow your business and your personal financial plan. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. I believe a financial advisor is key in this. And a lot of times for my clients, I'm operating as the quarterback and helping coordinate a lot of these different professionals. But your CPA could serve in that term as well. Once again, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that understand veterinary, or at a very minimum, medical. So, dental has a little bit of crossover, but veterinary truly is a little bit unique. And especially if you're younger and still navigating some of those student loans, it is very important to make sure that we're kind of keeping all of that in balance there. So your team is going to be involved of a financial advisor, maybe what's called a value advisor. So if you're trying to build and grow an enterprise or a value business, you're going to want a value advisor, a business coach that can help you strategize that 10-year vision, those strategic directives, the 1-year goals, and then your 90-day sprints. Somebody that specializes in building and growing practices and making practices efficient and de-risking and all of those things that we talked about, that's the purpose of a value advisor. Good CPA, a good business attorney. Be very careful. In a lot of states, there's some very specific laws about who can and cannot own a practice. And unfortunately, not all attorneys understand that. I have seen cases where in the state of Iowa here, you cannot own a practice if you are not a veterinarian. There's a couple of grandfather clauses that are allowing some of these corporates to come in, but we don't need to get into that. But I've seen practices that are formed as an LLC that has a spouse that is a non-veterinarian as one of the owners of the LLC. That will not work. If the state licensure were to get their hands on that, it could cause problems for that veterinarian. You also want a good business banker. You need a good relationship with a business banker, especially if you're looking at getting into needing financing or anything like that. A good relationship with there's a lot of banks out there that are doing veterinary specific lending, Bank of America, US Bank, PNC, Healthcare, just to name a few. But I've had some people that have had better luck working with their local bank, especially if you're in a small town and you've got that good relationship with the business banker. Those are some of the keys. Now, with this too, there's going to be other professionals that might come into place. You may have other business coaches that will come into play from time to time. You may have other strategic type people, but this is kind of going to be your key board of advisors. And all of them should be on the same page with the methodology of how you're wanting to grow and run your business. You cannot have your CPA disagreeing with and running interference with your financial advisor or the business attorney. I've run into that before where you get some of these small town CPAs that don't understand veterinary and they're still doing things under the old school, throw everything through the business. So then when I come in and I'm like, we've got to get some of this cleaned up, they're fighting you the whole time. Even though it's what's in the best interest for the client, they just don't understand what we're trying to accomplish. And so making sure that all of your professionals are on the same page and talking to each other is also absolutely key. It is also very important. We want to regularly review and adjust our goals, our cash flow, and our business plan, and our personal and financial plan. This is where those 90-day sprints come into play. This is where every 90 days, or even if you don't decide to do that track every 6 months to a year, you're looking at your goals because you need to review and adjust those periodically because life changes. Your objectives are going to change. You may have at one point in time said that I'm going to retire when I'm 65 or 67 years old or 70 years old or whatever it may be. And then something happens in your 50s and you're like, man, I've got to release myself from this. Or vice versa. Hey, I had the goal to retire when I was 60 years old, but I'm still loving what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep things going. Or I wanted to start a small practice. Now I want to grow it into something bigger. There's a lot of different things that are going to change. So reviewing our goals and our why on a periodic basis is very, very important and vital. Want to review our cash flow? Monitor your cash flow. This is key. Make sure that you are looking at your P&Ls, your balance sheets. Make sure that you are analyzing your key performance indicators on a regular basis so that costs, expenses, etc., are not getting out of control. This is also a very painful thing for a lot of veterinarians that are not raising their prices enough. I could never raise my prices because my community won't take it. Well, you know what? We are all used to inflation right now. The cost of care has gone up. The cost of employment has gone up. So if you're hiring techs or an associate veterinarian, it's not going to be inexpensive. And if your pricing doesn't reflect that, then you're going to end up behind the eight ball. And the thing that I challenge a lot of my clients with is they're afraid that if they raise their prices, they're going to lose clients. And I will always push back on this. Are the clients you're going to lose the ones that you wanted in the first place? Are your clients the ones that appreciate your knowledge and your expertise and the care that you provide their animals? And you know what? You do a good enough job and you've got a good enough relationship that they will pay you for that. Or do you have the patients and the clients that are nitpicking over every single dime that are going to leave you for the practice down the road for $5? Because I would argue those clients that are the price shoppers are generally the ones that we don't want anyway. You went to school, you are a professional, you are really good at your job, and you are providing a standard of care that is above and beyond. Charge accordingly. And I would be willing to bet you will lose very few clients. And the ones that you do are the ones that you didn't want anyway. So that kind of goes, ties into that last part, adapting your business plan to industry trends and challenges. Things are changing. Things are constantly changing. There's pressure from corporate. There's all sorts of different things happening, but it's not all doom and gloom because you know what? The small business owner is alive and well. And even though there are pressures, there are always pressures. We can still make this all work. And if you are regularly monitoring and adapting your goals and your plans, you're going to be able to keep up with that and have a growing and thriving practice. Embrace the journey. It's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of headaches. So it's going to take dedication, hard work, and once again, strategic planning. Good businesses don't happen by mistake. Just because I can bake a good cupcake doesn't mean that I'm a good business owner. However, I can bake one heck of a good cupcake. And if I surround myself with the right people that are going to help build and grow and drive my practice, then you know what? We're going to be doing just fine. So once again, with careful planning and the right support, your dream to own a practice or grow that practice that you're already in, or if your practice is one of those practices that you bought yourself a job, the good news is it's not too late. We can turn it around. We can by using some strategy and by being deliberate and having a good vision and establishing a good why, you can get that energy back. You can get that passion back. Or if you're looking at starting in, man, starting a practice is not easy. But you know what? If you surround yourself with the right support and you've got the right vision, it can absolutely be a reality. A couple of resources for you as I'm wrapping things up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to kind of give us a couple more words here, and then I will check the email for any Q&A that might be out there. This is how you can get a hold of me. The QR code will get you to a scheduling website for me. Email is vets@r2fin. Our website is r2fin.com/vets. VetBadger, vetbadger.com. Some really, really good resources. E-Myth Veterinarian by Michael Gerber. Michael Gerber wrote the E-Myth decades ago, and over the last handful of years, he's come out with some specialty for specific industries. And so he partnered with Dr. Peter Weinstein and wrote E-Myth Veterinarian. It is an absolutely phenomenal read, or listen on Audible. It's actually Michael Gerber and Dr. Weinstein that narrate that. Great book if you're thinking about getting into practice ownership, or if you are in practice ownership. Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Great book about stop trying to get good at the things that you don't want to get good at. There are people out there that can do it for you. There are people that are passionate about the areas of business that you don't necessarily want to bog down in. Me, myself, I love working with clients. I love helping people establish their vision. For my business, I love building and growing my business. The day-to-day minutia of my business just drives me nuts, just to be blunt. And so I have got wonderful support staff that helps me take care of those things so I don't have to get good at things that I don't want to get good at. I'm going to encourage you to do the same. Stop doing those things in your business that drag you down. Focus on doing the things in your business that give you passion and energy. Last two here, a couple of really good podcasts. The Vetted podcast by Stephen Herman and Cale Flashpolar. They are with DVM Business out of Missouri. And this entire podcast is geared toward the small practice owner and the practice owner and they just talk about the different aspects of practice ownership. Phenomenal listen. Great guys. If you happen to be here in Iowa, they will be at the IVMA conference next week. Last one, Daring DVM podcast. My friend Amy Grimm out of California. She is a equine veterinarian by practice, and she started a life coaching business to build and encourage and support the mental health and just the life coaching side of all things veterinary. Definitely a good listen on her podcast as well. Little asterisk, there is a little bit of language in that podcast, so just keep that in mind. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen. That is all of the things that I had. I will let Stephen step in here, give us a couple of closing remarks, and I am going to check my email and see what kind of questions we might have.
All right. Thank you very much, Josh. That was great. I'm just finishing up my notes here. That was, it's a lot of good stuff. Of course, I'm going to want to say something about practice management software, and pretty much everything I'm going to say is in agreement with what Josh said, especially on the question of aligning with your why and your motivation for going into practice. One of the things you'll discover when you're looking at practice management software is that you can find different types of software based on what type of practice they're designed for. So for example, VetBadger is designed for practices that focus on communication, long-term client relationships, maintaining those client relationships, and maintaining your sanity as you manage those communications. If that's an important part of your practice and part of your vision, then please come talk to us. That's absolutely something that we support. If you're looking for something that's more sort of, you're trying to build sort of a high volume spay neuter clinic, there are other types of software that will probably work better for you. But again, it all comes down to, look at your motivation, look at what your priorities are, and make sure that you find software as well as people that align with your priorities. But other than that, that was some great stuff.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Thank you again for hosting. I do not have anything in the inbox for Q&A unless Chrissy saw something that I'm maybe not feeding through. This was recorded and will be made available to the attendees and those that weren't able to attend. Little logistical thing, I do need to throw it through a compliance department to make sure that I didn't say anything I shouldn't have said, but hopefully within the next week, we will get that out to everybody. So thank you all for attending. I have given you 15 minutes of your day back, and feel free to reach out with any questions or anything like that.
Thank you, Josh.